Coming up on this week's episode of Inside Iowa, we'll take a look at the university's bicycle simulator, meet the visual artist behind the video display at Carver Hawkeye Arena, and learn more about zombies and if an outbreak could really happen. Hi, I'm Haley McMiniman, and welcome back to another episode of Inside Iowa, your guide to discover what's happening with alumni, students, and faculty. The University of Iowa is one of a few places in the world that has a bicycle simulator, which uses a virtual environment to study the cognitive and physical abilities of children using a bike.
University of Iowa graduate student Megan Matthews is getting her degree in informatics, which is an interdisciplinary program offered on campus. She received her undergraduate degrees from the University of Iowa as well, combining her passions and receiving degrees in intermediate art and psychology. With a combined interest in both science and art, she found the perfect role on campus working on the bicycling simulator research project.
This is an excellent mix of science art. From the science side, I'm learning about how to do programming and also how to build models in 3D environments. And from an artist side, I get to use my aesthetic abilities and my background and color and really get to build interesting looking, engaging objects.
The bicycling simulator uses virtual environment technology to study how children and adults cross roads with traffic. The bicycle sits in the middle of 3 large screens and is equipped to feed real-time information to a computer network, which creates an interactive virtual environment.
Can have kids or adults ride the bike up to intersections where there's cross traffic, and their job is to look at the traffic and figure out when they think they can cross without getting hit by a car.
Megan uses her interdisciplinary background and love of the arts and science to examine research, write code, and create virtual characters.
As a graduate student, I've really been involved specifically with building an avatar that responds in a naturalistic way to real human movements. I love this research because every day is different. Some days I'll be sitting behind a computer and programming dynamics code. The next day I'll be working on sketches for a child character and bringing that to life.
The simulator itself is also an interdisciplinary project. The research is conducted in tandem between the departments of psychology and computer science.
You can't go out in the real world and ask kids or adults to cross roads for you to see how well that they do. We need to be able to do this in a safe way, and the virtual environment allows us to do that without putting kids at risk when they're doing the task. It allows us to have complete control over the entire situation.
Creating a simulator isn't an easy task. There are only a few bicycle simulators worldwide, and far fewer that use them for research. And that's where the Department of Computer Science steps in.
We designed the software and put together the hardware that create the simulation environment. Part of what has to be done is to design the environment, and so that's to specify where the roads are and what textures are on the road, where the houses are and where the cars are. The dynamic things have to be placed on the roadway during the simulation, and so that has to be controlled with software. So we write software that writes behaviors for little car driver behaviors that control the motions of the vehicles.
Children delay in initiating their movement more than the adults do, which results in less room between the child and the approaching car.
We're interested both in the decisions and in the crossing actions. We can look at the decisions in terms of the size of the gaps that kids choose to cross, and then we can also look at how they actually act on those decisions. So how do they actually cross the roads? And one of the things we found is that our 10 and 12-year-olds and our college-age students, they basically choose the same size gaps to cross. But the big difference between kids and adults is how they act on those decisions.
And this kind of research is important to all parents, including Jody, who has 2 kids of her own.
Any parent can relate to this because unintentional injuries or accidents are the leading cause of death and disability in children between 1 and actually up to age 34. Anybody who's a parent is very concerned about children's safety, and my interest was trying to figure out what is it about kids' immature cognitive abilities or perceptual motor abilities that really puts them at risk.
We just finished building a second simulator and are working on connecting them together. So 2 riders will ride, each in their own simulator, down a virtual roadway, but they'll see each other graphically represented together.
A second simulator will be able to provide greater insight on child bicycle safety, including influence from other kids. And keeping children safe is what motivates this team.
It's amazing to be able to have a job where I get to my office every day and I get to think about what interesting research questions that I want to answer.
The technology is exciting in and of itself, but to be able to take that technology and put it to use to solve these kinds of problems for children's safety, but also more broadly to be able to study vehicle safety in general.
Working in this lab, it has given me the kind of foundation experience for, taking interesting intersections like virtual environments and gaming and bringing them into an applied setting. And, it's an interesting way to sort of build a career.
New York-based visual artist Susan Kaprov created a video installation going the distance for display at Carver Hawkeye Arena. The video display features many Iowa athletes from several different sports.
Well, I'm a visual artist, which covers a lot of territory. In my case, I do large-scale installations. I work with photomontage, I've worked with glass, I've done large-scale prints, and now art video. And that's been the most interesting of all, this piece I've done for Iowa. In this piece, what I do is I take actual live footage and then I merge it with pure imaginative footage that's a mixture of the two. So one is overlaid over the other. So I just want something dynamic, something that really reaches out to people and says sports and action, lights, action cameras. I had to figure out what's this going to look like? What's wrestling going to look like? I mean, here these people are tearing each other's limbs apart practically, and how am I going to make that look really dynamic? So I figured, let's draw over that and then animate the drawing. And that really came out very, very dynamically. I like bright color on a very dark background. So I figured, let's see if I can translate that into something with sports, these figures coming out of a dark background or a background that's moving, almost like a fluid field of some kind, to have the background in motion as well. So I took the two things, I drew the figures, and then I had an animator actually frame by frame translate that into the actual motion of the sport. The intent was to highlight the major sports that are being played at the arena, and the idea was to have bodies in motion. And that's what sports really is. When you do a video and you slow it down frame by frame, which is how you have to work with it, you see the beautiful fundamental choreography of sports. You see them in a way the normal eye can't see them. So all the tumbling and the running and the throwing and the pole vaulting, swimming, all the sports that are here, you see it in slow motion and you can't imagine how beautiful that looks. So I almost felt I was peering in on a great secret of nature, of human nature, human motion. And that's what fascinated me about the project. I like harmony, and I like beauty in the work. I like something that people will say, wow, this is new. I like art to make people happy.
Can a zombie apocalypse really happen? If so, what can we do to survive? Hear what experts have to say about the possibility of a zombie plague and what to do if and when it happens.
Zombies, the brain-eating undead, whose only goal is to feed, and we're their primary food source. If bitten, it's only a matter of time before you're turned into a zombie as well. But can a zombie outbreak really happen?
There are all kinds of microbes out in nature. We know very little about most of them. We know there are some, like rabies virus, for example, that can cause extreme aggression, that can cause biting, that can cause behavioral changes, that can cause neurobiological changes. Who knows what is out there in the wild, lurking, that we just are unaware of, that may cause symptoms similar to what we think of as zombieism.
If and when a zombie apocalypse does occur, hordes of mindless, reanimated corpses wander the streets in search of human flesh, driven by their basic instinct to feed. The origins of a zombie outbreak may vary, but diseases can and do affect the brain.
Since many infectious diseases affect the brain and hide out in the brain, I think that it is quite possible we may see something come together someday where our behavior is affected by some sort of microorganism that alters the nervous system in a way that is not conducive to nice social behaviors.
Throughout history, there have been epidemics, outbreaks, and plagues that have ravished society. Vaccines were created to help prevent future outbreaks. Other pandemics, to this day, still have no explanation.
There's a lot in history that we don't know very much about. In the early 1900s, an epidemic of sleeping sickness, where people got encephalitis and just died in their sleep. And this hit lots of young people, and no one really knows what the exact cause of that was.
With a zombie, their infections typically spread through bites or saliva, but there are known cases in nature where creepy creatures infect an unknown host.
We just don't know anything about the diversity of microbes out there. Microbes can do just about anything. Different parasites or fungi basically take over the insect's brain and cause them to have behaviors that are adapted to transmission of that particular parasite. So we know those happen in nature. We haven't seen those happen specifically with humans yet, but it's probably only a matter of time.
Okay, so a zombie plague could happen. Whether it's the reanimating undead or a microbe invasion, what should we do to survive?
As far as preparedness goes, there's the age-old discussion, do I stay in one place or do I stay on the move? You want to consider what your adversary, what they do, and their behaviors are very much oriented toward hunting and killing, and that's all they do. They don't need to sleep, they don't need to take a bathroom break. All they're interested in doing is finding food, which means that if you stay hunkered down and you happen to be making a little bit too much noise at the wrong time, you're going to find yourself being enveloped by a mass flesh-eating horde. Constantly being on the move is not much better. You have to consider that you're always going to have to find food, you're going to be in new environments that are unfamiliar to you, and you also have to be prepared for the possibility that you need to sleep in an unfamiliar, potentially unsecure location.
Whether staying put or hitting the road, avoiding large crowds is highly recommended.
Crowding is one big risk factor for any kind of microbial transmission. So if you're in a big city, if you're in an apartment building with lots of people, that definitely is a factor. So it's typically better to get to less dense areas where you have more space, where you're separated from other humans as much as possible, as well as, of course, zombies.
And so, how does Iowa look for survivability?
Iowa is a fairly good location because we do have a fairly sparse population. We have lots of open spaces, and we also have a rather highly armed population.
And preparing for a zombie outbreak can be advantageous. Even the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says if you're equipped for a zombie apocalypse, you'll be prepared for other disasters, like hurricanes, pandemics, or earthquakes.
A lot of the things that would apply to a zombie apocalypse would also apply to, for example, a flu pandemic. From a personal standpoint, again, being prepared for things, having a stockpile of food and water and emergency supplies, batteries, radios, things like that.
That does it for this week's episode. Join us again next week to see what's going on with your university and how it makes a difference in your community. For Inside Iowa, I'm Haley McMiniman. Thanks for watching.